first, I must say it's really, really fun to be here today because it's the Great Journey and it's Friday Stories, and I get to talk about something that I really, really love. So let's get this show on the road. I'll share my screen. I'm going to talk about the power of play. The power of play is the magic that happens when people play, and how we can harness that power to maybe save the world, I guess. At least I think we should try to. And my story with games I played games for over 40 years. I played a lot of games. I spent so much time in imaginary worlds over the years, so it's kind of ridiculous, but it's also very valuable. So I guess it started with me playing games with my father, playing card games, and then we played board games, Monopoly, as a family. I have issues with Monopoly, but that's another story. And then I played a lot of role-playing games during my teens. I played a lot of role-playing games. Drakar och Demoner, the Swedish version of Dungeons and Dragons, Chock, Mutant, and then I went on to play Call of Cthulhu, and I spent so much time with role-playing games, and I still do. I love them. And then I played a lot of computer games. In the bottom left part there is Elite on Commodore 64. I remember calling a friend of mine who also played Elite, and we had to tell each other every time we discovered a new ship, a new space station, we called each other and was like, oh, it was a big ship and there came lots of small ships out of it. It's just lines and dots on a black screen, but we really lived within that world for months. And then I went on to play other games, mobile games, phone, and PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, Dreamcast. I spent hours in Skyrim. And all through the years, I always had to defend why I was playing games. I often heard, why are you wasting your time with games? People always ask me that. My big sister asked me that a lot because I weren't doing my homework. Instead, I was playing games. And my parents and, more or less the entire society looked upon games as something not worth to spend a lot of time on. But I did that. And if we fast forward until today I'm creative director and a part owner of Sticky Beat. We're a digital innovation agency. So we are inventors. We invent stuff. A lot of them are digital, but a lot of them aren't actually digital at all. It can be a card game or something else, something physical, or a workshop method or something completely else. And we put a lot of this power of play into our projects. And why? Yeah, because we can really tap into something that's that makes us take people on a journeys to experience stuff, to discover stuff. And so I want to talk about play and games in a 3-part presentation. And the first part is play is a magical power. It's an absolutely magical power. Play is something very human and very unique, and it does stuff. It does stuff to us, and it has to do with our brain, how we make sense of the world. Our brain contains about 85 billion neurons. There's a lot of neurons, and those neurons have a lot of synapses between them. So this is an extremely complicated machine, which resides at the top of our heads. It's extremely complicated. And the way it works is that it connects those neurons in different networks with different tasks. To solve certain tasks, you use, for instance, the creative network of your brain, and you have a high creative and low creative network, and you use both of them to solve problems. So we have this brain with all these networks, and if somebody tells you, let's play hide and seek, if you're a kid, you immediately say, I guess you would say yes. Yeah, let's play hide and seek. And even if you tell a grown-up today, let's play hide and seek, there's at least a possibility that you're soon about to play hide and seek. And why is hide and seek a good game? A good way of playing with each other? Yeah, because it's important to us. If you look upon the human beings in an evolutionary perspective, play has been super important to actually survive in the world. So hide and seek is a way to train. If you one day are standing in front of a saber-toothed tiger, then it's very important to know how to hide. So this feeling you get when you hide behind the curtain, and the one who's looking for you, the hunter, comes very close to the curtain, you can feel all those butterflies in your stomach. That's the power of play. And this, it teaches us stuff. It's certain stuff happens. So I'm going to try something on you right now. So if I tell you 1066, what am I thinking about? You can write in the chat. 1066. Let's see who knows. What is 1066? Nobody? Battle of Hastings. Battle of Hastings. Yeah, it's the Battle of Hastings. So in school, they taught you 1066. It's the Battle of Hastings. So let me rephrase that question. Who won? Who won the Battle of Hastings? Or who lost the Battle of Hastings? Or more important, why is the Battle of Hastings important today? Why is the Battle of Hastings important today? I often ask this question to people. I was at Almedalen, all the Swedish politicians and all the decision makers, and I asked them, what is 1066? And they were looking really proud and said, it's the Battle of Hastings. Okay, who won? Nobody knew. Who lost? Nobody knew. Why is it important? Nobody knew. Third generation Vikings to beat second generation Vikings. Yeah, it's important because the Normans took over Britain. So actually England came closer to the European continent. So it's important. Times of Brexit, it's really important. And let me ask you another question. In Swedish Monopoly, because I only played Swedish Monopoly. In Swedish Monopoly, which is the second most expensive street? Do you know the most expensive street in Monopoly? Anybody? Nope, you're wrong, Patrick. The dark blue ones. Yeah, that's true. It's the dark blue ones. It's actually the most expensive street is Norrmalmstorg. And the second most expensive is... Nope. Centrum. Norrmalmstorg and Centrum. When I asked the same question in Almedalen, all these politicians know that Centrum is the second most expensive street in in Monopoly. They don't know why Battle of Hastings. I don't know the street. I know exactly. There's a lot of different Monopoly games now. Nobody knows why Battle of Hastings are important, but people know that the second most expensive street in Swedish Monopoly is Centrum. Why? Because they played the game. They didn't play Battle of Hastings. So play is where reality and imagination meets. You take a part of reality and part of imagination. So you play, the imaginary part can be a saber-toothed tiger, or the reality part can be how the streets of Stockholm is laid out. And then you put those things together, and play emerges in the area where those two things meet. Reality and imagination, that's play. And within that area, we often talk about Homo ludens, not Homo sapiens, but Homo ludens, the playful human being. Today we can play a lot because we automated a lot of the dishwasher is doing the dishes, whatever. So we can spend a lot of time on playing, and this is a superpower. Play is magical. Part 2, with great power comes great responsibility. That's a quote from Spider-Man. It's actually a bit longer, but it works. With great power comes great responsibility. So if we can use play, if play is a superpower, then we can use it to do something. This is Brenda Romero. Brenda Romero is a game developer from, well, she started back in the 80s. And her daughter came home one day and said, Brenda asked her, what have you done in school? Well, we learned about the Middle Passage. And the Middle Passage is how slaves was transported from Africa to America. And Brenda, like a mother, but oh, Jesus Christ, there's going to be questions about this. Wow. And her daughter's father was black, so there was a lot of tension now. And Brenda asked her, so what did you learn? And she realizes that her daughter thinks of it like a pleasure cruise for black people from Africa to America. She didn't understand it because the Middle Passage was putting a lot of human beings in a shelf system in a boat, just sticking them into shelves and chaining them to the shelves, not feeding them. So when the boat actually came to America, a lot of them had died along the way because they didn't make it. So that is what it is. So Brenda she said, we're going to play a game now. So she took these little wooden tokens from games and painted them. She told the daughter, we're going to make families. So they painted all these wooden tokens and made families and said, these are families living in Africa. Now they're going on this Middle Passage to America. And they put all these families on little paper, on a bit of paper, and they put food on it, other tokens, and every time the boat moved, they rolled dice, how much food they were eating. And then the daughter asked, but what happens when we run out of food? Well, then we have to throw people overboard because then they're going to die. And when they had moved this boat a few times, the daughter said, we're not going to make it. She didn't say, they are not going to make it. She said, we are not going to make it. The key word is we. So that's play is also connecting with knowledge. So this is my daughters. This is like 4 years ago. This is my teenage daughters. We played a lot of role-playing games. And when I played role-playing games with my daughters, I suddenly realized that they were doing things. They were working with their self-image. They were creating characters that they wanted to be, or characters that actually said something about themselves. I never realized that until I played with my daughters. So play is also the combination of me and not me. It could be me, but it can be somebody else. It's me or a slave on a ship going on the Middle Passage to America. So it's a way to really change the perspective in this area between me and not me. And then this feeling machine, people, we are not thinking machines that feel, we are feeling machines that think. So suddenly we feel what those people felt. Brenda's daughter said, we are not going to make it. And that's the power of play. And last, part 3. So if we take all these powers and put them together, I believe games can save the world. In a way, games can help us save the world because games can help us realize things, feel things, know things that can actually help us save the world. And a few examples. These are examples that I've been inspired by during the years. On the top left, there's a board game called Meltdown, where you're playing a family of polar bears trying to get to safety because the polar cap is melting. But those transparent areas that they're actually moving on is ice. So take a tray and you pour water into it and put it into the freezer, and then you take it out, and then you have the pieces to play the game with. And since we know that a home indoors is like 20 degrees, you know how fast that ice is going to melt. So this is the timer. I think it's absolutely brilliant. On the top right is a role-playing game that I kickstarted that it's actually made for kids on the autism spectrum. So everything that happens in this game, this role-playing game, is actually made to make them train on their social skills, on their to realize stuff that is really hard to realize if you're not playing with them. In the bottom left, there's a game called Mainichi. I think it's called Mainichi. It's a game about being a transgender person going to have a coffee with a friend downtown, and when you go outdoors, go on the street, you'd realize stuff. The card game, the role-playing game is called Critical Core. So when you go downtown to have this coffee, you meet somebody, and that person says, "Oh, you have a beard, but you're a lady, you're a woman. How can you have a beard?" Then you replay that same game over and over again. So you realize, okay, I have to shave before I go downtown. So this is a repetitive day, just trying to fit into society by changing the way you are and look and go. And it's really, you can feel all this anxiety trying to fit in. And last is Scribblenauts. It's a game that taught my kids to spell English words. When my daughter Greta was 8 years old, she could spell to scissors. I asked her, "How do you spell scissors?" And she could spell it. Because she had played, she wanted scissors in that game. So she had to know. She sat there with Google Translate and wrote sucks, get scissors, wrote scissors. So through the power play, she learned how to read and write, and actually type English. And these are our own games, a few of them. We make a lot of games. On top left is Drivkraft. It's a game about why the energy industry is important and how electricity powers everything in our society. And we made that for people working within the energy industry because they are not proud of what they do, but suddenly they could realize, okay, so the power that I produce at that power plant actually powers the kindergarten in Gävle and the hospital in Karlstad, and because it's a puzzle game, so they puzzled it together. On the top right is Historiedetektiverna. It's a game about actually going through material and finding out what's true or not. So these people are helping, the kids in school are helping the future to recreate the past by putting them into this story. It's super interesting. We use an actual archive material. Down in the left, there's Rockamundan, the game we made about brushing your teeth. It's been downloaded, I think, over about 200,000 times in Sweden now. But we made it for the parents, not the kids. But we never told the parents that. But the parents hate that song in the game. But that song teaches them how to brush their teeth. And bottom right part is we were alone together. It's my own project about making a role-playing game about the Holocaust. And it's kind of weird, you know, how do you get that idea? But I wanted people to feel what it felt like. Because we know it happened, but we don't feel it anymore. So this is my own project that I'm working on. So we can put challenges and possibilities together and play with them, because then we can know that's where we create tomorrow. And then because we have great challenges today. We have the democracy is on the siege today. We are losing our connection to the democracy. We don't understand it anymore. We don't understand it anymore, and we don't feel it anymore. So election wheel, what we're going to play a bit later, is all about that. How does democracy work, and how does it feel? So we're going to play that a bit later. I need a few players of you. You guys are going to be the players and create political parties, and it's going to be really fun, I think. Okay, so that was my presentation.
And thank you so much for today, everyone participating, and Andreas and Anders for joining us.
Thank you.
See you.